I am so happy to have you along for this next 30 minutes, which I hope will be a valuable time for either you or someone in your life that you know and love. Today, we're going to hear from an industry expert about your nutritional needs in pregnancy, which is an especially important topic for us to be chatting about, considering the current need for us all to be keeping as healthy as we can. I'm Beck McQueen from Birth Sense Australia, and today I'm happy to introduce my wonderful guest, Melanie McGrice. Hi, Melanie.
Hey, Rebecca.
So good to see you. Melanie is a dietitian and she has a special interest in fertility, pregnancy and infants. So she's the founder of Nutrition Plus, which provides resources about early life nutrition to healthcare professionals and their patients. Melanie also runs the Nourish with Melanie YouTube channel, the online dietary program, 8 Simple Steps to a Healthy Pregnancy Diet, and is an ambassador for Compassion's Mums and Bubs Nutrition Clinics, with the Nutrition Plus team sponsoring one in Tanzania. That sounds amazing. And if anyone wants some more information about that, hop over and see Melanie's site at melaniemcgrice.com. So Melanie, thank you and welcome so much for being here today. And offering you valuable time and expertise. Let's jump in and hear as much information from you as we possibly can, shall we? I guess my first question, Melanie, is don't women already know what to eat during pregnancy?
Well, yes and no. I mean, everybody knows that they need to be eating a healthy diet, but when you actually look at the research of how many women are eating this diet, the numbers are actually quite low. So, for example, there was an Australian study that looked at the number of pregnant mums who were eating particular foods during their pregnancy, and 41% avoided all salad throughout pregnancy. So they were obviously getting those messages about salad and listeria very confused. And I remember being in a chat group once, and this lady said, and I think this really summarises what I often hear from mums. She said, "Oh, I've been craving a burger, so I ate the burger, but don't worry, I removed the salad." And so I actually see that a lot of women are really confused about what to eat in pregnancy. So as a dietitian, I don't want mums to be avoiding salad altogether during their pregnancy, because obviously it's such a nutritious food. But we need to learn how to eat salad in light of listeria. So what that means is that we need to be making sure that salad is prepared with good hygiene practices, so making sure it's washed, and most importantly, it needs to be kept in the fridge. So all of your salad veggies need to be kept in the fridge, and then when you get it out and prepare it, then it needs to, if you're not going to eat it straight away, it needs to go back into the fridge until you're ready to eat it again. But you certainly don't have to cut out salad altogether.
The listeria hysteria, I've heard it called before.
Yes, I've called it that before myself. And look, like I said, we do have to be really aware of listeria during pregnancy, because women's immune systems do decrease during pregnancy. So it is a risk, but the risk is actually really, really low. So it's less than 0.1%, in fact, way less than 0.1% of Australian women who have any type of listeria effect. Whereas if you compare that to something like gestational diabetes, where we're talking about hundreds of thousands of cases, yeah, it's much more. Or another one is too much weight gain during pregnancy. So the stats for Australia are that 50% of pregnant mums gain too much weight during their pregnancy. So that is a much bigger issue than listeria is.
And is that weight gain and the gestational diabetes, are they linked?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, very much so. And it doesn't mean, so not 100% of the time, but they are definitely linked. So if you do gain too much weight throughout pregnancy, then your likelihood of developing gestational diabetes is significantly higher. But at the same time, if you are gaining the right amount of weight, you can still develop gestational diabetes, because at the end of the day, it's predominantly a hormonal condition, and it's caused by our increased progesterone levels during pregnancy. So it's not, weight isn't the only thing, but weight certainly has a big role to play.
So what you're saying is that there's always a lot of awareness and talk about listeria, which is a tiny problem compared to this much bigger problem that maybe doesn't get as much airtime. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and not just the problems of weight gain and gestational diabetes, but I guess how I came to specialize in this space, or what probably one of the main reasons why I specialize in this space, is when I came to understand the implications of what's called early life nutrition, or the first 1,000 days. It's also known as genetic programming, is another term for it. And so basically what the research shows is that we have this window of time from preconception through pregnancy and into infancy, which is a period of time of around about 1,000 days, where the majority of our genetic programming gets undertaken. And so this is when our baby's genes, are essentially programmed for a whole range of different things. So whether or not they're going to struggle with their weight, what their immunity is going to be like, their cognitive development, so how they're going to go with problem-solving skills and their learning abilities, and their risk of chronic diseases in the future, and all of these different things are predominantly programmed in this first 1,000 days of life. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I always say that when a woman is planning to conceive or during pregnancy, it's the most important time in your life for eating well, because you're programming your baby's genes for the rest of their life.
So I guess then the question would be around eating well. How do mums eat well if they're feeling really sick and they're looking for that comfort food that makes them feel better?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, this is why as a dietitian, I'm trying to really encourage people to go and get that personalized advice from a prenatal dietitian when they're pregnant, because people seem to be up one end of the other. They seem to be up the end of, oh, don't worry, you can eat what you like, or the end of, oh, you have to have this perfect diet. Whereas in reality, there's a middle ground. And that middle ground is actually really important to eat well during pregnancy, but it's also the most difficult time in your life to eat well because of morning sickness and exhaustion and reflux and everything else. And so rather than just saying it's too hard, eat what you like, that's where people need that personalized advice. And there is a lot that we can do as dietitians. And I definitely tailor my advice on the individual and their unique symptoms, because if anybody's been through a pregnancy before, you'll know that no two pregnancies are alike. So one person may have terrible morning sickness, but no reflux. Somebody else might be craving I don't know, say salt throughout their pregnancy, but have no morning sickness. Like, everyone's different. And so that's where getting advice from your friends and family isn't necessarily going to be beneficial for you. You need to find out what's going to work for you as an individual, so that you're meeting all of those important nutrition requirements, but still coping with the challenges of pregnancy.
So what's your opinion on women taking prenatal supplements?
Well, I think it's really important because there are some nutrients that are really difficult to get the ideal amount of during pregnancy just with food alone. And although obviously it's not impossible, it is more challenging, and we do want to give our babies the best possible start in life. But I think the problem is, again, people asking their friends what they take, and so they're taking whatever supplement that their friends took or their sister took, or the ones that, like, the doctor gives out the same recommendations for the same prenatal supplements to every single client. And again, they need to be tailored depending upon your unique needs. So again, because it is such an important time to be optimizing your nutrition, I believe that yes, prenatal supplements are important, but they do need to be tailored for you as an individual.
That makes so much sense, to say that a one size fits all is never right for any medication. Why would it be for supplements?
Exactly. Yeah.
And the whole idea of tailored medicine is becoming bigger in all areas, whether that be from oncology, right through to dietetics. It makes so much sense to get that, looking at you, what your lifestyle is, what's going on for you, and working it out from there. So it is about getting a prescription, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I guess for many people, we can get a bit lax and say things like, oh, well, there's plenty of mums out there who don't eat well. Some mums take drugs, and some mums just eat chips the whole time because of morning sickness, and their babies turn out fine. So why do we even need to worry?
Well, that's definitely true. And so to a degree, you don't need to worry, because the human body is miraculous, and it's amazing that you can have a healthier baby even if you don't have a perfect diet. So it's definitely not about having that perfect diet. It's just about giving your baby the best start possible. And I guess, as I explained, the more optimal nutrition that you can have during pregnancy, the more of a head start that you're going to give your baby. And I guess I would say to those mums, well, how do you know that your baby may not have been healthier and had more advantages if you hadn't made those if you had made those additional tweaks? So it's certainly not about blaming or finger pointing, because, like I said, nobody is perfect. Like, you can't have a perfect diet throughout pregnancy, particularly when it is the hardest time ever to be eating well. But it is about doing the best that we can.
Yeah, like everything in life.
Yep, absolutely.
So you mentioned, we've mentioned morning sickness, which sometimes isn't morning at all, it's all day. What tips do you have for mums who are struggling with morning sickness?
Well, it depends, again, on a lot of things. So, when their morning sickness is it all day, or is it just in the morning? How severe is it? Like, are they vomiting, or are they just feeling nauseous? I guess, one tip that springs to mind is the power of ginger. Again, a lot of people go straight to the doctor and go straight onto medications. As a dietitian, I do like to keep things as natural as possible. And there is good evidence behind the use of ginger for decreasing nausea. It doesn't stop vomiting. So if you have got vomiting, that is when you need to be going to the doctor and getting some what's called antiemetics, so anti-nausea medication. But if you're somebody who is just experiencing nausea, then ginger can be great. Now, you do have to be careful of taking too much ginger during pregnancy, because that can actually have side effects as well. So like Mama Bear, it's about not too much and not too little, and just the right amount. So I personally really love and recommend a ginger tea, which can be easily made. And actually, on my YouTube channel, Nourish with Melanie, I have a recipe and a demonstration on how to make ginger tea. And it's so simple. Like, it really is so simple. And what I love about this recipe is that you're actually making it from fresh ginger, as opposed to, again, buying something that's processed off the supermarket shelf. And I guess my personal philosophy, being a bit of a person who takes on a little bit more than she should, is to make things as practical and quick and easy as possible. And so I like that for my clients as well. I'm not somebody who tries to create really fancy meal plans and things. I believe in just keeping it as simple as possible. And so that's what people will find with my ginger tea recipe.
I love it. I'll be getting on and having a look at that recipe, because sometimes you can feel a bit off even when you're not pregnant, and ginger tea can settle things down beautifully.
Yeah.
Do tea bags work at all, or just forget it?
They do, the ginger tea bags. Yeah, look, they certainly do work. And so there's nothing wrong with using them. But I just really love the idea of having something that is natural and fresh, because you're going to, when you're using tea bags, like they're quite highly processed. They've been usually sitting on a supermarket shelf for weeks, if not months. So you're just not getting that quite same freshness and natural ginger.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I want to come back to just something that you spoke about earlier, which was perfection. And the whole mothering sphere, parenting sphere, sometimes is about being the perfect mum, having the perfect pregnancy, the perfect outfit, the perfect baby, goes on. And that pressure to be perfect, particularly now with Instagram and all these social media pressures, is even higher. And it's causing some problems in society. And I did a webinar not that long ago around anxiety in new mums and even in new dads and partners. And I'm curious to know, regarding anxiety and depression, because they often are linked, does diet have any or some impact on that mental health side of things?
Very much so, Beck. And the research actually shows that for some people, that dietary changes, and this is not necessarily, so the research, sorry, I better clarify. There's research on anxiety and depression in pregnancy, and there's research on anxiety and depression just in general. So the research on anxiety and depression in general shows that some people can get as much improvement in their anxiety and depression symptoms through dietary changes as they can with medication in some cases. Not in all cases. Like, obviously for some people it is very physiological and they need medication. But I guess the key point is that yes, it can make a very big difference. And particularly we know that during pregnancy, rates of both perinatal and postnatal depression do soar, because it is such a stressful time. So there is a lot that can be done during pregnancy with your food intake. A couple of key tips would be, first of all, choosing foods that have what's called a low GI or low glycemic index. So by having those foods, they're foods that they're carbohydrate foods that break down really slowly and have a slow release of those carbs. And they're really good for us in pregnancy anyway, because they're good for our insulin levels, which then goes on to reduce our risk of gestational diabetes, which we were talking about earlier. So this is just simple changes like swapping a white bread to a sourdough or a really dense multigrain bread. Instead of having fruit that's more tropical, like melons and pineapple, having fruit from more temperate regions, like stone fruit and berries. So choosing those low GI foods is one thing that people can do. A second thing that people can do is make sure that you're having enough omega-3. And this is a really important one. Going back to earlier about people's dietary changes during pregnancy, that study I was talking about earlier shows that there was a 22% decrease in consumption of oily fish during pregnancy. And during pregnancy, not only do we want oily fish for the health benefits for our baby's developing brain and eyesight and so many other advantages of oily fish, but again, that helps to reduce the risk of both perinatal and postnatal depression, because it's got that great omega-3 in it. So a lot of people are really scared about fish during pregnancy because of listeria and mercury. So you just need to be, in terms of listeria, you need to be making sure that your fish is well cooked. So cooked all the way through, so no kind of rawness in the middle. And then in terms of mercury, you just need to be choosing fish that are low in mercury. And so one example is salmon, and it's such a popular type of fish anyway. It's really, really high in omega-3, And so it's a great choice to be having throughout pregnancy. And again, on my YouTube video channel, I've actually got a video about the best fish to eat during pregnancy. So that might be another one to link to, or for people to go and have a look at.
I would definitely link, because that was going to be my next question. Well, what other white fish is good that's not high in mercury? But we'll just link to what you've already said before. So that's brilliant. Okay, so that is what about too now with people, maybe they're living at home, potentially they're being confined, they're isolated in this current environment we're in with COVID-19. It's causing more anxiety for people, and for people who are pregnant, you know, there's that added weight as well. What are people going to do who are at home, do you think, who maybe don't have access to fresh fish as much as what they might like to? What, do you have any other advice around food to help with anxiety?
Yeah, so well, in terms of fish, because it is such a good food, there's nothing wrong with either having some canned fish, so tinned salmon or tinned tuna. Again, in terms of mercury levels, are both really low in mercury if it is tinned, because they tend to use this, they tend to farm the smaller fish for that. So that's very, very safe. And you can also use frozen fish as well. Just try and get the frozen fish that doesn't have all of the sauces and dressings. I recently came across, and I don't usually do plugs of particular foods, but I was just really impressed with this. They have at Woolworths, they have a Woolworths brand salmon that comes in little microwavable bags. And even though salmon is so quick and easy to cook anyway, this literally, all you have to do, take it out of the freezer. It's already in the little bag, put the little bag with the fish in it straight into the microwave, 1 minute, take it out, it's ready to eat. Like, it's that simple. So for people who are time poor, and because it's frozen, you can keep it in the freezer for months. It's a really good option.
Love it, love it. That doesn't get any easier than that. And you know, you're doing you and your baby good by going that way instead of reaching for the chips if you're hungry.
Absolutely.
That's great. So just on this topic of COVID-19, because everybody's worried about it, what are some of the best things that women can do to boost immunity? Yeah.
So the things that we're doing to decrease risk of COVID-19 are the things that pregnant mums should be doing anyway. Because as I was saying earlier, when you're pregnant, your immune system is compromised, and so you are at higher risk. And that's where a nutritious diet is really important. Again, that omega-3 is really beneficial for our immune system. Also, antioxidants are fantastic for our immune system. So the more different colours of vegetables that you can consume, that means that it's a good indication that you're getting a variety of different antioxidants. And antioxidants, I always like to think about them as the defenders in a netball team. So they're our defence team. And, you know, if you're playing netball, you don't just want one defender, you want a whole lot of different, like you want your goal defense and you want your wing attack, and like you want a whole team of people playing different roles to defend, to get the ball down your end. And so it's the same thing with antioxidants. We need all of these different types of antioxidants to create this amazing team to fight off anything, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's flu, whether it's listeria, any type of virus or bacteria. And so that great defense team of antioxidants is really important.
Fantastic. That is such fantastic advice, and so timely for people to be hearing it. And this whole series is about asking experts and getting evidence-based information out there to people. What do you say around where do people go, and women go who are pregnant, to get good evidence-based advice?
Well, I really believe that if you haven't seen a dietitian before, pregnancy is the time in your life to be having a consultation with a dietitian. And even if you have seen one before and it's been a while, it's time to go again, because obviously our needs change so much during pregnancy. So try and find a prenatal dietitian. You were mentioning earlier, and thank you for this, Beck, that I run an alliance of dietitians all around Australia and New Zealand, of dietitians who have got a special interest in prenatal nutrition. So there will be someone close to you, and if not, all of our dietitians do virtual consultations as well, so over Zoom or Skype or phone or what have you. So you can definitely see someone who is going to be able to help you for your unique needs.
That's brilliant. So I will definitely pop that on my handy contacts page so people can hop on and easily find your link and get all those contact details, so they can see a dietitian who has an interest in prenatal, postnatal as well, and infants. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. It's brilliant. I have one more little question, and I'm going to go back right to the start, because there's something that's happening in society that I'm finding. It's political, it's a bit touchy, and one of the things you mentioned was obesity in pregnancy causing such huge issues. At the same time, we've got a movement going on where people are talking about fat shaming. And as an educator, I'm confused around how to approach that. I don't know if you're finding that as well.
Definitely. Yeah.
So what is the recommended weight gain for women when they're pregnant? How do you work that out?
So the recommended weight gain changes depending upon your conception BMI. So your BMI is your body mass index. So it's your weight versus your height. And how many babies you're having, and there's a few other things that we look at to work out what somebody's recommended weight gain is throughout pregnancy. If somebody does have what's called a healthy BMI, so between 18.5 and 25, the recommendations are between 11.5 to 16 kilograms throughout their whole pregnancy. Now that breaks down to, we like to aim for a maximum of 2 kilograms throughout the first trimester, because we need to remember that by the end of our first trimester, our baby's only about the size of an apricot. So there's not a whole lot of baby weight there. And most of that weight gain throughout that first trimester is just fluid stores. And then in the second and third trimesters, we're aiming for about 300 grams of weight gain per week. So we don't have to eat a lot more during pregnancy to have this additional weight gain, unless you were underweight going into your pregnancy. And so I think this is, again, where there's a lot of confusion, because you do hear a lot of people saying, oh, you're pregnant, you can eat for 2. Yeah. Even at the, like when you go into labor, your baby is only about 3.5 kilograms. Your baby does not need to eat a whole size meal, the same that you would normally eat during the same amount that you would normally eat. So your baby doesn't need that much more in terms of kilojoules. It's mainly the nutrients that need to be increased. Okay. So in terms of the whole fat shaming and so forth, look, it is a really tricky area. And I guess the reason why I talk about it, and I hope that all of my clients and the people listening understand this, is that I'm giving this advice out of love. So for me, I worked in what's called a bariatric clinic for nearly 20 years as a dietitian, so definitely over 15 years. I'm trying to see how many years it was. It was quite a while though. And where my average client was 200 kilos. Yeah. And nobody, people gain weight for a variety of reasons, but I know that it was actually working in this clinic that got me specializing in pregnancy in the first place. Okay. Because I was working with these clients and they would be even if they ate a really healthy diet, they might lose a bit of weight, but they were never going to get into be walking down a catwalk in a size 8 type of thing. And this is when I came to realize how important that genetic programming is. And the research actually shows that weight gain in the next generation, so for our babies, isn't actually genetic, it's the genetic programming. So even if you have a man and a woman having a baby who are both in that morbidly obese category, so both have a lot of excess body weight, if they gain the right amount, or if the mum gains the right amount of weight during pregnancy and dad has some weight loss during pregnancy, it is actually still possible for your baby not to struggle with those same weight issues that you do. So I guess I just really want people to know that I talk about weight gain during pregnancy out of love, because of the fact that I know all of the impacts that it can have during pregnancy, and it can cause a lot of problems. And I think that just saying, oh, well, like we shouldn't talk about it, to me, that's not very loving. It's like saying, oh, somebody is about to break into your car, but I don't want to bother them because they're busy doing something else, so I just won't tell them about it. And so I believe instead about giving people the tools and the encouragement, and not, that doesn't mean going, oh, you know, you struggle with your weight, therefore you must. And I get really, really angry at people who do finger point and think that people who struggle with their weight must be just eating McDonald's every day and sitting around not doing any exercise, because I know from working with many clients over the years that often they'll have healthier diets than a lot of people who have a so-called healthy body weight. So I know that a lot of it does come down to our hormones, and it's not about shaming, it's about empowering.
Yeah. And so I know that maybe I put you on the spot by asking that.
You can ask anything. I'm an open book.
You are. And as am I put a post up recently around the issues that obesity is bringing into birthing suite and labour. And I got a lot of pushback from people that I was fat shaming. That was never not my intention at all. It was very statistical, and well, this is really is what's happening. What are we going to do about it? Because burying the head in the sand isn't going to help anything. So thank you for answering that question so beautifully. And it really, what I took from that too, it's not always about mum either. We need to be looking at dad's side of the fence too, which is something I think that most of us don't realise. It's not always all about mum, it's about dad's genetics as well.
Absolutely. So I always say to my couples who are trying to conceive that your sperm and your eggs, they're the genes that are going to, that's the genetic code that's going to create your baby. And so you want that sperm and those eggs, well, that one egg and that one sperm, to be as healthy as possible when they come together to make that baby. So yeah, it's really important for mums and dads to be optimizing their health as much as they possibly can before conception.
So should partners be coming in as well to see dietitians?
Look, it's more in the fertility side of things when it's really important for both mums and dads. During pregnancy, then dads can be a great support, and the research shows that when dads are discouraging, so for example, if dad is sitting down having some chocolate, you can't expect mum just to go, all right, well, I'm going to not have any chocolate even though my partner is sitting there and it looks really yummy. Or if he's having hot chips and they smell beautiful and that's exactly what you want, you know, it's important for dads to be supportive, but it's particularly important for dads during that preconception time. And then also when bub is born, because that's when the role modelling becomes really important. But if I had to do it as a priority, I would say it's definitely that preconception period, because that's when you're essentially coding the genes that your baby is going to get.
Yes. I guess the reason I asked that, it might have sounded a bit weird to say, well, why would dad need to come when mum's pregnant? But I was after that information around modelling, particularly because I spoke to a lactation consultant not long ago who did a webinar with us, Marie, and she was talking about how the best thing dads can do, one of the biggest things that, or partners, it's not just dads, but partners can do, is when a woman is breastfeeding, to be encouraging and to be saying you're doing great, because if you're getting those messages of, oh, I don't know if your baby's getting enough, or maybe, you know, I'll do a bottle feed so you can rest, that can undermine a woman. So it is about that team approach, partner, mum, to get the best results the whole way along. It's not just the mum show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Melanie, what you've shared with us today has just been such incredible information, and thank you so much for your precious time. I know you're a very busy person, very big practice, and I just think you've just got great generosity to be here today in what is a busy time for all of us, and a bit of a crazy one too. And what I would say to anyone who's sitting at home on this Facebook live, or maybe you're watching this after we've recorded on the YouTube channel, the Birth Sense YouTube channel, that I'll pop this up in a few days' time, is if you'd like to know more about what Melanie has to say, why don't you head to her YouTube channel, because there's some amazing information there that we've mentioned, and that YouTube channel is called Nourish with Melanie. And there'll be some fabulous evidence-based videos there for pregnancy and infants, and also for fertility as well. So have a look at that YouTube channel, and you've got it there at your fingertips anytime you need it. And I just want to say a big thank you to those of you who are watching today, and look out for the details for our next webinar on our socials, Birth Sense Australia, where I'll be talking to Professor Hannah Darlin. She's from the University of Western Sydney, and she is one of the country's most respected maternal and infant health academics. She's recently written a paper discussing COVID-19 in pregnancy and birth, and I can't wait to hear from her and chat to her about the things that many pregnant women are feeling really anxious about right now. You can read her findings and that paper on my blog post. It's on the Birth Sense Australia blog in the news section and the blog section. I've popped it up there, and I think by reading it, many of you will get a great deal of comfort out of what she has to say around that latest research for COVID-19. And we all need a bit of that at this point in time. And everybody, just take care. I'll stay in touch. Thanks, Melanie, and bye for now.